This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for Aggrochat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of Aggrochat. This is episode 166. Tonight, I'm joined with... I'm just going to start over.
But leave this in.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm
Tonight
Ashgar.
I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hi.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
I thought you did that intro amazingly.
Tam.
We are joined with each other.
We are drift compatible. So, tonight, we're going to start off the show by apparently me butchering everything. And then that's going to be quickly followed by the topic that got dropped by everyone last week because we recorded like a 2-hour plus show. You guys gave me the topic of anime Roundup and then a bunch of titles that I can't even spell. So
we have been watching a lot of anime.
I can tell.
The new season is up, and honestly, like last season was a little disappointing. Like there was one really notable great show last season, and this season is way better. There's a ton of really good stuff.
Like up on Crunchyroll, or
yeah, we
Okay.
get basically everything from Crunchyroll. I do want to start. It's not on the list, but I watched Your Name, and it's amazing. And it's like one of the best movies I've seen. Putting that out there. It is made its way into the very short list of movies that I want to own a physical copy of.
Is it still in theaters, or is it...
I don't know. I don't think it's still in theaters. Like, I watched it on a plane.
So it's probably going to be coming to movie, like, home theaters somehow pretty soon.
Yeah, I've got a Blu-ray pre-ordered.
coming to a Blockbuster near you.
Seems unlikely.
That said, we do still have video stores, so...
So what is Your Name about that you can describe without giving away too much of the plot?
Your Name is about a teenage boy and girl who wake up in each other's bodies.
So like Freaky Friday?
Yes.
But I'm guessing not a comedy?
I mean, there are funny parts, but it is not explicitly a comedy.
Are they like waking up? Do they go to the same school?
No.
Okay. Do they know each other?
Nope.
Interesting.
They don't even know each other's names.
Hence the title.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like it'd be fun.
I really can't say more besides that premise. And the premise is a little goofy, and honestly, it is a little goofy. Like, there's some, it plays it for laughs as much as it plays it straight. But then the question is like, okay, why is this going on and what is the relevance? And like, that's where it gets really interesting. It starts out charming, turns compelling, then breaks my heart. It's amazing. I like my anime like Kodra likes his indie games.
11 sides out of 10.
Yes.
Yeah, not a lot of the stuff that we watched is really terribly sad.
No, it's true.
So what's sort of been at the center of everything is My Hero Academia.
This is a show that takes place in a world where like 80% of the population has superpowers, ranging from incredibly mundane superpowers to ridiculously awesome superpowers. And so there are people who become superheroes as a job, because there are also people who use their powers for crime and evil, hence necessitating superpowered crime fighters. So what happens if you're really, really into superheroes in this world? Like, you think you idolize them and you think they're awesome, but you don't have any superpowers.
Yeah, so that's sort of the premise with the main character.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, when I first saw it, I kind of saw the shape of this, and I kind of lost interest. But this show is very good. This is a typical shonen show that is subverting a lot of the shonen tropes.
Probably worth explaining shonen in this case.
Yeah, okay, so shonen is technically little boy.
It's like aimed at a young male audience. So
Bleach, One Piece,
yeah.
Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, yes.
aka most of the shit that I really like.
Yeah, and I think you would really like this as well.
I strongly agree. I think Belle would love this show.
But the show is doing a better job at a lot of the stuff than, I find there to be some pretty insufferable shonen tropes. Like, especially with their treatment of their female characters. So, and also, like, where I thought this was going to go is this guy doesn't have powers, and, like, we spend a whole bunch of seasons of... So, early on in the show, he is offered a chance to be gifted a superpower. Or to basically, it's described as he has to earn the superpower. And I was like, okay, so I see what season 1 is. Season 1 is him working to earn the superpower. No, that episode was like him doing a training montage and getting the superpower.
Yeah.
It's like, if this show was DBZ, that would have taken 20 episodes.
Yeah, an entire season.
And I'm like, I am so happy that didn't just happen.
So, is it less predictable than the traditional shonen show? Because, like, that's the problem that I have with them in general, is every season plays out exactly the same way.
I haven't hit a point where I've been like, I know exactly how this is going to play out. Once I see the shape of how, like, an episode's plot is going to play out, I can be like, okay, I know where this episode is going to end, but the path to get there isn't, like, painfully clear, and the arc of a season isn't painfully clear either.
Yeah.
Like, the first 2 or 3 episodes, I would have had a very different idea of what that season is going to look like and, like, where that season is going to climax and resolve than what actually happens. It's kind of like One Punch Man in that regard. Like, you know how a fight in One Punch Man is going to resolve, but that's not really what the show is about. And this is similar. But I also think that it has also genuinely surprised me a few times.
Yeah, Naruto has there is one particular episode in the second season that I thought I knew for sure where it was going to go, because it was reminding me of another, like, trope that I'd seen in Naruto and was like, thought it was cringy and didn't really like it, and then that's not where it went. And, like, a bunch of the characters in the show started acting like that was where it was going to go, and then sort of the character that everyone listens to because he's actually one of the smarter ones was like, you guys don't realize what's going on, and then the episode shifted gears. I've really enjoyed My Hero Academia for that.
Yeah, I really liked how that show is going.
And so that show was in last season, and it's continuing in this season.
It's also fun, it does for me fall into the, it's really hard to watch, like, the first 2 or 3 episodes of most anime, and
that is definitely an example.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, like, even have a sense of where it's going, much less if it's going to be good. Because I'm with Kodra in that I sort of stuck with it because I heard people gushing over later parts of the season and kind of dragged him along with me. Because we were both sort of checking out of it after the first couple of episodes, but it picks up really, really well.
It really picks up at about episode 5.
Yeah. Much like many of the shows we've watched. Episode 5 is, like, the turning point. But it does mean that you've got to, like, get there by episode 5.
I will say that I do think that is a weakness of that show, because I have seen anime that have managed to hook me in the first episode. And I've seen anime that have managed to hook me in the second episode. I'm specifically thinking of Angel Beats.
Angel Beats hooked you in the second episode?
Oh, yeah.
Huh. It took me until, like, 4 before I was, like, really hooked on it.
I was also completely hooked by Kino in the first episode.
That was, yeah, I think that one, Kino's journey was amazing from episode 1.
But yeah, it is one of those things where sometimes you have to watch a bunch.
I mean, in the other camp, we have Knights and Magic.
Yeah, okay. So Knights and Magic is a new thing that's coming out, and there's a couple of shows that are just completely ludicrous premises that are just there because the author wanted to tell a specific type of story.
The author was interested in something, and so there's a show about that something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this something is spellcasting mecha.
Yeah.
The author likes giant robots.
Okay.
This is bear in mind, none of this is spoilers. I'm going to describe the first 5 minutes of this show. A highly skilled programmer gets hit by a car and dies, and as a notably, a highly skilled programmer who is kind of an otaku and is obsessed with giant robots, like has an entire apartment full of Gundams, is hit by a car and dies, and reincarnates with memories sort of intact, like memories and skills sort of intact, as a baby in a world where in a fantasy world with mecha. And his driving life goal is, I want to pilot a mecha.
And also the magic system functions similarly enough to programming that he is able to become a absolute magic ace. Like, it feels very wish fulfillment-y type thing. Like, this guy becomes ludicrously overpowered in, like, episode 1 and continues to stymie, like, all of the adults around him who don't understand what he's doing. But on the other hand, it is a bunch of mecha that are casting spells.
Giant monsters.
And fighting giant monsters.
It's pretty amazing.
We watched the first episode because that premise seemed ridiculous, and it seemed like it was going to be fan service the anime. And it is, but not the type of fan service we expected.
It is fan service the anime the way that it's fan service the anime the way that The Name of the Wind is Mary Sue the book. Yes, but still.
In a very similar vein is a show that is not as good as that, which is In Another World with My Smartphone.
The name of this show just seems silly.
I mean, so the premise...
That is the name and the central premise.
Yes, the name of this show... The premise of this show is a guy dies because he was in the place where God dropped a bolt of lightning, and God didn't realize somebody was there, and God feels very, very upset about this. So he's trying to make it up to this kid, who he's going to reincarnate into this magical world, and the kid asks him if he could be reincarnated with a working smartphone. And God's like, oh, sure, I guess I can do that.
Oh, okay.
I think that premise actually has some interesting potential. If you just had nothing but a smartphone in a magical fantasy realm that had access to the real world internet, how much of a wizard would you seem like? And I think that's an interesting premise. Unfortunately, it's kind of undercut by the main character also is naturally good at all of that world's magic and is just more powerful than everyone else when it comes to magic, and also has a smartphone. But I think there's an interesting story that could have been told with surviving on the skills a modern human in our world would have in a fantasy world. But that's the story they're purporting to tell, but it's not really the story they're telling.
Which is really a pity.
I'll probably watch a couple of other episodes of it just because an anime doesn't hook me in the first episode doesn't mean I shouldn't see if it hooks me later. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say the other show that we watched that kind of reinforces that was Gamers, it is a show about the gaming club at a high school. And we started watching it and we're like, okay, kind of see where this is going. And then it gets super eye-rolly. Oh, look, here's the pretty girl who's actually into video games and runs or is a senior member of or something this game club and is trying to recruit the like losery but into video games main character-ish guy, you know, roll your eyes out of your head kind of thing that's going on. Yeah, I really like Bakan. I don't know. He's the least interesting of the characters you're introduced to in the first episode.
But he's also the character that the like story is following around.
Yeah. But like also, and so it's sort of like we watched the show, and I think we both, in like a lull near the last 5 minutes, were kind of like, yeah, we're sort of done with this. Not really interested in where this is going. Like, let's not super interested in watching like wacky misadventures, like wacky tropey misadventures with this guy and his like crush on this other character, and like seen it before. And the last 5 minutes of the first episode, and this is sort of spoilers, but sorry. In the last 5 minutes of the first episode, the main character is like, basically like, no, I don't think I'm interested in joining your club. Like, you guys are too hardcore for me.
He's into casual games. He likes iOS games and dating sims.
Yeah. Like, he's a super casual player, and like everybody in the game club is like super hardcore. And they're like, oh, well, we could make you better. We can teach you how to be a super great gamer. And he's like, no, I'm not really interested. Kind of out. And it like sends the other character out of the classroom in tears, and like curtain on the episode. Like, wait, what? So it is, despite being super eye rolly, it's like, okay, I'll get that one will get another, that one's gonna get another like another episode watch, because where are you gonna go with this? Is that like a fake out to, is it like a weird fake out and like, oh, next episode, actually, yeah, he's convinced, and we go on to like tropey, wacky misadventures? Or is this going to go somewhere neither of us were expecting? Is this actually more interesting than we thought?
Like, it might be about like this guy trying to get them to maybe give up some of their hardcore persona and like actually not focus on winning video games at the cost of everything else.
We might have been introduced to the entire villains suite.
Yeah.
Like, where they are the antagonists, and there's a kind of weird Romeo and Juliet story going on. Because it's sort of, the show is not really subtle about like, oh, hey, male and female lead romance is a thing, whatever. But there's enough like cracks in that facade that I at least want to see if they go anywhere.
This is a thing with anime. You know, when do you give it a chance? Because you know that some of them get really good after a few episodes. Like, when do you draw that line? When do you give it a chance? And when do you go, my eyes are rolling out of my head right now, and I just don't want to waste any more time on this, even though it might get good later.
I wish we had a good answer for that. Like, it's a thing that Kodra and I go back and forth on, like, constantly. Because there are some shows where we turn it on, we get 30 seconds into it, and we're like, nope, we're out.
Well,
and just like turn it off.
And the problem is, like, a lot of it is just simply cultural, and it's like things that are probably perfectly normal, but make me want to say, oh, hell no, that's not even cool.
We've mostly gotten good about like the cultural stuff that's just like, oh, hey, this is a culture that thinks about things differently than we do. But like some of the like hyper sexist stuff, we're just like, nope, we're out. Like, oh, hey, we start a show and 5 minutes in, it's ludicrously fan servicey. Like, nope, we're done. Out. Just like we're done.
Speaking of that, there is a show that I am probably going to continue watching. I don't know if you will, because it's a premise that interests me because I like quizzing. But that first episode is like the entire first episode's character dynamic between the male and female lead is based on the male having seen the female lead's panties by accident.
Oh,
and
God.
It's like,
no, yeah, that was the one where I was just like, My eyes rolled out of my head too far to continue with that one.
Yeah. And I did quizzing as a high schooler, and I find a show about quiz bowl teams to be something I really want to watch. But that's just like, why does it have to be?
Why do we have to go in this stupid place? Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing that bugs me is it does that, but on the other hand, when you actually do see healthy relationships in anime, they are so much better and like so much better executed, so much more compelling, so much more interesting than the Western equivalents. Like because they don't do just like, oh, happy ever after. You get like, oh, hey, what happens when they have an argument? Like, this is a long-standing relationship and they have an argument. How do they resolve it? Oh, they talk through it. You know, all of those little details that are like, oh, hey, they think about each other. They you know,
it's actually interesting
discussions about, you know, how they're doing and care about each other's interests, and you get to see all of that play out in a way that you otherwise wouldn't.
The undercard relationships get a lot more of that in Western shows. Like not the top billing relationships, but the relationships that are actually allowed to happen. Because like the headliner relationships are like 8 seasons of will they, won't they?
God.
Yo.
And honestly, like the answer is yes.
Well,
Sure.
like, I think the problem is like every situation where I've ever seen a show where they finally get together, the show is functionally over at that point.
Yeah, because we don't know how, because they don't know how to tell that story after they can tell a story of infatuation, they can't tell a story of romance.
Bones is able to. Bones, the 2 main characters got together and it did it in the world. But most shows, I'll agree. I also think Bones is like Bones, while a completely ridiculous premise, is way better at displaying relationships. What?
But yeah, it's one of those things that, to Grace's point, it's one of those like when they're good, they're so good. But man, I've likened it to browsing Crunchyroll is like browsing the entire cable. Imagine if every show on cable TV on every single channel were just laid out in a list for you. How would you pick the good ones? And all you get is the title and a questionable blurb about what it's about.
Those blurbs are ultra questionable.
And you get to see the show's logo. You don't get to see the actors, so you don't actually know who the actors are. Because I know a lot of people will follow live action Western shows by which actors or actresses they like. But no, you don't get those. You only get those shows like splash screen logo, the name of the show, and the description. And you've got to figure out if that show is going to be good.
Well, and the problem also is like if you do any kind of research, all you're ever going to find is people who absolutely love it and people who absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
And neither is going to really be a good example.
Yeah. There's like no good review thing anywhere.
Yeah, Crunchyroll has gotten better at their descriptions, but there's still...
yes, in that they are actually sentences. Which I can't, when we started doing this, I can't say was always the case.
Yeah.
And you get some really weird premises. One of the shows that we've been watching that I think is amazing. It's Restaurant to Another World, which the premise of this is fantastic. It's a regular restaurant, just like it's a Western style restaurant in Japan. So like, you know, if effectively imagine basically like a Chinese restaurant in the States kind of equivalent, like a, you know, mid-range, go here and be a regular kind of restaurant, except that one of its doors every 7 days opens into a fantasy world at various places. And so people in that fantasy world can go through this door, which is sometimes in some weird places, and find themselves in this like random restaurant in modern day Japan. And how does that play out?
It's it's great. This is the premise I kind of wanted in another world with a smartphone to be, because it's like fantasy magical people being bowled over by the conveniences of modern cuisine.
Yes. And like, it's one of those things where, you know, you'll have a treasure hunter that has a whole journal full of the notes of the whereabouts and timing of this restaurant. And so they know that once every 7 days on the day of Saturn, it will appear.
Except usually what happens, the way their stories go, is they don't exactly know what they're searching for. They just know that, like, it's go a great treasure. Looking for this. It's a great treasure. And then they find it, and they find a door, and they're like, what is this? And so they explore and then discover the restaurant and are amazed by the ability to create such culinary masterpieces.
Because, like, quite honestly, food in a fantasy world is kind of terrible. You're talking about like Dark Ages / Renaissance cuisine, which is not mostly great.
You don't have refrigeration.
Yeah. I mean, like a recurring gag is people will sit down and be amazed by the ice in the water. Where do you get the ice from? What luxury!
But it's both a cooking show and a fantasy show, and if you've never seen a cooking cooking anime, they're amazing because you get to see some of the most beautifully drawn food. It's
if you've played FF15 and seen the like borderline pornographic depictions of food in that game, and need more of that in your life, food-based cooking anime is your outlet, because wow. You'll have like a perfectly normal anime, and then it'll cut to like this incredibly detailed picture of, you know, shrimp tempura or something. The weird trope in these shows is that everyone is somehow a culinary expert, like a food critic expert, and we'll talk about like these incredibly detailed reactions to the food that they're eating. The eggs are so fluffy and light and are set apart by the oil and the cheese. And yeah, it's kind of madness, but a lot of fun.
Everything is Iron Chef.
Yes. It's like everybody in this show is one of the judges from Iron Chef. They talk like that. It's like clearly they're going for that kind of thing, and it's hilarious.
But like, you also get the hints of the fantasy world, and like the adventures that spring up based around this restaurant are really, really fun.
Yeah, you get this sort of like continuing picture of the fantasy world that this restaurant is like adjacent to. And it's not like adventurers moving. You sort of get a picture through all of this from like the people hanging out in a restaurant talking about whatever it is they're doing.
I thought there was a really good scene where, like, this king is being introduced, like, a wandering swordsman from the east has, like, requested an audience with this king. And, like, no one can believe it's him because he's supposed to be, like, in a completely different country, and he's a legendary swordsman, and why would he even bother coming? And he came to return this guy's sword that he had left at the restaurant 3 years ago. Because everyone owes the proprietor of the restaurant one.
Yeah, and like the restaurant proprietor is the chillest human being imaginable.
It's really funny.
Like, he's just, you know, he might like even open on his day off. He clearly makes perfectly fine money in the restaurant. He doesn't really know what to do when people pay him in like gold coins or whatever. So he just sort of like keeps them around in case he needs them and like uses them for other stuff.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend them.
It's probably my favorite of the ones we've watched this season. Second favorite. My favorite is the second season of New Game. New Game plus plus.
New Game !
Oh, right. I can't keep up with punctuation in these titles.
So I think we talked about New Game, which is the first season was a girl starts working at a video game company right out of high school, and it is a accurate documentary of what it's like to work in the games industry.
It is the weirdest. It is an incredibly weird show because it manages to both be like day in the life, charming, charming show, but also like touch on what it is like to actually work in the games industry in a lot of weird ways. Like it's all through this like charming anime, this charming cute anime lens, but also perfectly accurate. Like, oh, they actually address like the alcohol problem and the work hours problem and the way management is done. And I mean, it's weird but cool.
This season has already touched on being more successful than your superiors and feeling guilty about it.
And superiors not handling it well.
Yes. And it's like, oh, I've dealt with this in my own professional life. But yes, the show is really fun. You'll enjoy this one, Belle. The programmer from the season 1 got promoted to the lead, and her one request upon promotion was that if the studio head changed specs on her, she'd get to flick her in the ear.
That's funny.
She needs it in writing.
She needs it in writing. If you change requirements on me, I get to flick you in the ear. I was like, yeah, I know programmers who would take that attitude, absolutely.
There's the animator, the like way too peppy animator who's always like posing at their own desk. Has a variety of props, usually weapon props, sitting around, constantly posing. Other people around them just like try to ignore them, put on headphones.
There's a coworker. Totally real thing. There's a coworker who only communicates through IM.
Yep.
Yeah, I really, really like New Game. So something that came out last season, and I didn't watch, but I've been catching up on that I really like, is Kinka Bancho Otome.
Unraveling.
Subheading boy or subheading girl beats boys.
Yes.
Kinka Bancho series about being a Japanese delinquent and beating up, your fellow students until you become king of the school.
This is an Otome about that exact same thing, which an Otome being a dating sim visual novel.
This is an end on that game.
Yes. It's amazing. This girl is somewhat tricked, somewhat convinced into going to this school.
And pretending to be this guy who's supposed to actually be there.
Who does not want to go.
Yeah, who doesn't want to go.
And she doesn't realize what's going on until she gets to the opening ceremony and everyone's beating the crap out of each other. And, finally catches her bearings, and one of the beautiful boys she'll eventually be dating is talking to her. He's the one who actually beats up everyone at the opening ceremony. And he's, trying to convince her to join his gang, and, she's like, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And when he hears who she is claiming to be, he gets very angry because he thinks she's messing with him because that's a dirty trick. She's supposed to be very powerful. He demands a fight, and she promptly beats the crap out of him.
In 3 hits.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the tone of the show.
That's episode 1.
That's episode 1, and every subsequent episode is her getting into these, close, steamy encounters with all of these beautiful boys, or beating the crap out of someone. There's 7-minute episodes if you have Crunchyroll. It doesn't take too long to get through.
There are only 12 of them.
There's only 12 of them. It's very fun.
Yeah.
This is a show that hooked me on the first episode, because they do some pretty... when they are actually doing the fight sequences, they are fast and brutal, and I love to watch them.
Yeah, the animation for the fight sequences is really, really good. And yeah, it's what I was looking for. It's honestly a lot of what I was looking for out of Fate Stay, but with a digestible, plot setup.
Yeah.
Which I still want to return to at some point, but...
I agree. Fate Stay's battles are also much more anime.
It's true. Crazy, huge weapons and, weird magic stuff and...
Yeah.
Big action. And
then I think we only have one other thing to talk about, which is the weirdest thing we saw. if you've been thinking, hey, this anime sounds weird, this is not the weirdest thing we saw. The weirdest thing we watched was Ikemen Sengoku.
God.
Bromances Across Time. Because of that subtitle.
You watched it because of the subtitle.
Yeah, we did. We did watch it because of the subtitle, Bromances Across Time.
It is based on an Otome game, which is one of, I guess, many in an Ikemen series, which is something about handsome men. Anyway, girl gets transported across, time, and it's a dating sim about historical Japanese figures.
Yeah.
So you can date Nobunaga or Ieyasu.
But I'm pretty sure the anime ditches the lead character entirely.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no idea what it's about.
Nonsense. Like, the first episode is Nobunaga's retainer, who I cannot remember the name of, challenging the character from modern day to a duel, and the modern day character challenges him back to a tennis duel. And so it's them playing tennis, and like Nobunaga's retainer becoming way too, revealing his feelings for Nobunaga way too much is the joke. And then a steamy picture of Nobunaga well rendered at the end.
It's weird.
It was very weird. Probably not going to go back to it, but it was worth at least the 3-minute episode that we watched. This is a thing that fascinates me with Japanese television, is how much variety there is in episode length. There is a lot of 3-minute and 7-minute anime that is available on Crunchyroll.
It's like the variety show. Like, I'm pretty sure all of that appears on, a time block that's a variety show, where you'll see a 7-minute, a 3-minute clip and a 7-minute clip and a 10-minute clip.
Well, I mean, think about Shonen Jump, the magazine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bunch of really short stories but you get a bunch of them.
Sort of like the equivalent of Sunday Comics, or like the comics page in the newspaper, where it's got a kind of continuing thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't actually know how that's delivered in a time block, like on television.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm curious.
I remember when I was a kid, there were some Sunday morning cartoons where you would get 4 different cartoons during an hour.
I mean, I remember Animaniacs.
Well, I mean, this was
that and Oh Yeah cartoons and some other stuff.
Yeah,
there was Bigfoot, and there was I don't know, some monster truck, not monster truck, but some show where it's sci-fi and they have these crazy modded out vehicles, and gotta figure out what else was in that block. But it was 4 vastly different shows that happened within a 30-minute block maybe. So in theory, it's probably something like that.
Probably something like that. But yeah, I'm really happy with this season on Crunchyroll. And for the first time since Dragon Ball Z, I'm really happy with the current popular shonen anime. Which I'm now that they basically didn't take any time off between season 2 and 3, and I'm really hoping that they can keep up the quality with that type of a schedule.
So does that roughly wrap the anime roundup up? So another thing that happened this week is the mislabeled Destiny beta.
What?
Mislabeled?
Why
Yeah,
mislabeled?
I mean, it's not any more mislabeled than it was last time.
No, well, okay, that's not entirely true. The Destiny 1 alpha, beta, whatever was basically a complete experience up to a certain level cap. This is absolutely...
It was a demo. It had the first 3 story missions and a strike and some PvP.
Right, but it was everything you would encounter before level 8, which I think was where it stopped you from getting past.
Yes.
This is very much a E3 demo that has been released to the public. You can play through 1 story mission, you can play through 1 strike, and you can play a couple different Crucible game modes. I mean, that said, the story mission was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It is...
Story mission was much improved.
They've learned their lesson.
Significantly improved.
They've learned their lesson from all of the stuff that that they did with, Rise of Iron and with Taken King, and they quickly set up a bad guy that we now care about, and gives us reasons to dislike this person, and pretty elegantly sets up the central plot of the game.
I will say there's not a whole lot of reason to dislike those. You didn't care very much about the tower in the first place. But they do set up, hey, these people are attacking the place where you lived. Maybe you should do something about it.
Yeah.
I feel like I just heard some story.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
Like, lots of stories.
Actually in the mission.
What?
And characters.
What?
And characters being characters. Like, you see Zavala and Lord Shax and Cade 6.
You know those class raids in the tower? They actually do things.
Ikora Ray. They're not just standing at a table anymore.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure I watched some Twitch streams of it. I'm pretty sure I heard Nathan Fillion's voice at some point in there.
Yeah, he's Gate 6.
Okay.
Robot Nathan Fillion.
I mean, really, it's Robot Mal.
Sure. But
one of my disappointments was the fact that the only way you could repeat the story mission was to delete your character and start a new one. Because you don't have a full, I think they call it director, whatever their mission finder was it didn't give you any planetary access.
The demo opens with this mission, and once you've done it, you can't do it again unless you delete your character.
Right. So
then you can either do the strike or you can do PvP. And I did neither of these things.
I played through the mission on all of the different classes so I could play with the different stuff. Each class had a slightly different weapon loadout. They basically pre-populated the characters with a bunch of weapons, and they gave a slightly different loadout to each of the classes. The space gun aspect is cranked up to 10. It's not just machine guns plus,
Yeah,
occasional muzzle flash.
I saw the pictures of the guns, the screenshots that you posted, and it makes me happy because I don't care about realistic looking guns. I want awesome looking weapons.
Yeah. I 100% agree with Grace.
There's a submachine gun that is technically a submachine gun, except for instead of firing bullets, it just fires lightning. And it's just
also fires bullets. Just when they hit things, sometimes you get lightning.
Yeah, well, but it looks like basically 3 lightning rods sticking out of the front of the gun.
It's
pretty
pretty
I love
impressive.
That thing.
Yeah, that's what I wanted more of in the original Destiny.
The thing I'm concerned about is that they literally hand you an exotic at the start of the story mission, and that is your most interesting gun. Which, fine, sure, exotics were most interesting last time. The not exotics don't feel that different. I'm a little concerned that
they've kept the exotics.
Unless they keep the exotics flowing, it's not really going to be that different.
That's my concern as well.
See, I mean, I felt a lot of the guns felt different, but I probably spent a lot more time with the guns than most everyone else here.
They did do things like they moved fusion rifle into heavy weapon slot, which I already liked the fusion rifle, and I already basically didn't have ammo, so there's not much change there. But
so they did something totally different than that. They basically they segregated off weapon from slot, basically. So you have your primary, you have your energy, and you have your power. But
did any of the classes have a not heavy weapon fusion rifle?
Yeah. No, there was a fusion rifle. There was a linear fusion rifle that was an energy weapon.
Okay, I just remember the one the Warlock started with that was a heavy weapon, which admittedly did feel amazing. Now
I think rocket launcher, sniper rifle, and grenade launcher only ever show up as power. But you can run around with 2 scout rifles if you so choose. You can run around with 2 hand cannons if you so choose. And that was the thing that I really dug the most, is the fact that I felt like I had a lot more control over what my loadout was.
I feel like potentially, but again, the beta didn't really show this all that well.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it continues to leave me with the question of, are the only cool guns orange ones? And how hard are those going to be to get?
See, I felt like a lot of the legendary weapons were pretty awesome.
I've been playing Warframe this past week, so I really, really don't agree.
Yeah.
See, and I don't like any of the guns in Warframe, other than maybe the Boltron or whatever.
The Boltor?
Yeah, the Boltor Prime. I really don't like Warframe's weapon design at all. So it may just be this is a me game.
Have you tried the Bratton?
I've played a lot of the guns, and they all, I don't know, they just feel lacking. Like I've built a bunch of the guns in Warframe, and I'm just so far not a big fan of them.
I just feel like there's enough variety there that there has to be something you find interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of my thought with I don't like a lot of the guns in Warframe 2, but there's so much variety that, and like not just variety in how a gun that does a particular thing feels, but like what the gun even does. Like, oh, this one shoots bouncing discs, and this one shoots lightning, and this one's a flamethrower, and this one shoots bouncing grenades, and this one shoots, this is a bow, this one's a spear that you can throw at people. And like that huge variety means that like somewhere in there I'm going to find something that I really like.
Yeah, I tend to only like the vanilla weapons in Warframe, or at least so far. I haven't liked the more gimmicky weapons that do a weird thing that doesn't normally happen in a shooter.
Yeah. I always think of like, Warframe isn't really the game that I like the variety in Warframe. The game that I always go to when I think of weapon variety is Unreal Tournament. Because there's a huge amount of weapon variety in Unreal Tournament. And like all of those...
It shows that some of the designers on Unreal Tournament are working for Digital D, because the Dragoon is basically the flat cannon from Unreal Tournament.
Yeah.
The Angstrom is basically the rocket launcher from Unreal Tournament.
Yeah. But that variety is so notable in all of... And like, even if you don't like how the gun operates, they all feel good in Unreal Tournament.
Well, similarly, like, I thought most of the guns that I played with in D2 felt really good. There are only about 20 different guns in the beta demo, whatever you want to call it. So like if you played through the starter mission on each of the classes, you basically got to see them all. Like I said, the thing that I like the most so far is the fact that like I don't have to choose that I either get to use an auto rifle or a scout rifle, or a scout rifle or a hand cannon. Like there is a energy slot version or a primary slot version of those weapons that I'm probably gonna like, and that allows me to, because ultimately, like, instead of a sniper rifle, I would have loved to have had the loadout of auto rifle in the primary and scout rifle in the secondary, just so that like I had something that I could long range snipe with, but wasn't constrained to the limitations of a sniper rifle.
The limitations of a sniper rifle being that you never get ammo for it?
Well, being that like you can only carry
also you
like
have to scope
3
in
shots and scope in, and
yeah.
There are some problems with the game in its current state, but I mean, to some extent, like, this is an old build of the game, so I don't know if this is going to change or if this was just what they did for the demo.
Assume that it will not change.
The regen is really slow.
It is really slow.
Like your grenade charge, your supercharge, your melee charge is all really slow.
Well, you don't have like any discipline or intellect or strength, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you remember how slow that stuff charged back when you first started playing? Because
that's how it feels whenever I play it.
Yeah, that's how, it felt for quite a long time, and then suddenly I like had some levels
and
of
then
gear.
You get gear.
Yeah, and suddenly it like, oh, I can actually use my super, and like it was great.
And I think that like a friend of mine was basically saying the same thing, that this is like starter gear and you don't have any perks on it. Like you don't have anything that increases your regen, and if that's the case, then that's fine. But man, it's noticeable to go from like my ideal spec'd out
noticeable
character
to go from the best gear to no gear. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
like, I have the best gear on my characters in Destiny 1, and it is keyed out to the way that I like to play, which is fast supers and fast grenades.
I mean, reference my comments when I've mentioned when I try to play Destiny and I feel like I can never use any of my powers. Like, I have these cool powers, but I never get to use them. And that's, tied to I need to get better gear, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that the frequency with which you can do cool things being tied to the quality of your gear is necessarily great, but that seems to be what they've done with it. It doesn't sound like that they've changed that.
Well, and there's stuff missing from the gear right now, because like there's a whole mod system that's not in this version to where you can slot basically Warframe-like mods onto gear. and that changes what that gear does. But that's like not in this version, and we've not actually seen a version of that working. But you can see in this one that there's a mod slot on gear, or it looks like possibly even multiple mod slots on gear, but there's no mods to put in it right now. It also looks like on energy weapons, you're going to be able to change what energy type a weapon is. So like you can take something from fire to arc to void, which only really matters if you're like specifically doing a mission type. And I equate it to, equipping the, anti-specific faction mods in Warframe.
Whether you're bringing corrosive or magnetic damage.
Yeah, basically, that sort of thing. Like, there are certain, like, if you're fighting Hive or you're fighting Cabal, there is a higher prevalence of a specific kind of elemental shielding, and that's probably what you should be running.
I really like that change, because there's also, like, the bounties or whatever that, you have to kill so many things with this kind of energy or that, and if they keep that kind of system, it would be so much nicer for the folks who don't have every weapon laying around to be able to just swap out that energy type on the fly.
Well, another huge thing is the fact that, like, gear is no longer random statted. Like, if you get this item, it will always have the same stat package. It's not a crapshoot as to whether or not you got the 1 in a million good roll on a specific weapon.
From the look of the Warlock gear, it looked like that's not even, like, not only is it you have set stats, you can sometimes even pick your stats.
So I have to ask, Belle, because knowing sort of what motivates you in these games, like, is that a plus or a minus for you?
So, like, if they take the random away and they keep providing interesting gear options, then that's probably a plus. I mean, because it's frustrating when you get, like, an AS Luna or, God, what was the really good Vex gun that could only drop off of a chest in a Vex mission. But basically, like, there's 2 possible good rolls on each one of those. And I have so many subpar AS Lunas and so many subpar Imago loops that it's just silly. And, so, like, I have enchant fodder for other weapons, but, like, the new wore off on that mechanic for me occasionally. Like, I was fine to keep grinding to try and get the perfect roll, but it was also kind of bullshit.
Yeah, I can imagine seeing the thing that you want to drop, and then discovering that it's not actually any good would be really frustrating.
I quit. That's when I quit, honestly.
Not like I have gotten so many Imago loops, and I've never really gotten one that was a good Imago loop. I mean, they're all usable. They're all, reasonably okay, but they're just not amazing.
I would rather them drop the drop rate, and you always get the good one.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I have the benefit that I have always played Destiny so casually that I had no clue which one was the good one or the bad one and didn't care. And I suspect maybe that might change with Destiny 2 because I'm getting out on the ground floor and I actually care about it slightly more. But so I am happy about this change because at the level that I was playing Destiny 1, I knew that the good and bad roles existed and just sort of willfully ignored that whole aspect of things.
You were the victim of many an hour of me rambling about some stat combination and you not really understanding what I'm talking about.
I mean, I've played a lot of Destiny at this point, and sometimes I still can't follow when you go off rambling about very specific weapons with very specific stats, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, I guess. Maybe I don't know how I feel about this game, but I'm playing a very different sort of game than you are.
Well, and the other thing that I'm hoping about this is, like, there were a lot of situations in Destiny 1 where, because you did not play at a specific time, you could never get this ideal weapon. Like, from year 2, Iron Banner, I have, like, this auto rifle that I still use today that is, like, just about as perfect a roll as you can get. And I've, like, on my Xbox account, there's no way I'll ever be able to get it because I wasn't playing on the Xbox at that time. and I have some items that are semi good, but nothing that will ever be that good because it no longer drops. So I'm hoping that gear is just going to be gear. Like you have stats on it, and if you get this item, you can cheer because you'll get the item that you really wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still pretty skeptical about Destiny 2. I have heard and seen enough compelling stuff about it for it to warrant a purchase, which means that that needle has moved pretty far. Because I think you've heard me go on about it before, but I don't know. Gonna have to see it. I don't mind that the PC version is coming out after the PS4 version, because that means that I will have a couple of months to hear what other people have to say about it.
Yeah, honestly, like, I felt like I beat the demo because I've done the strike a couple times. I've done some PvP a couple times. I've played through the story on all of the classes. I love Sentinel Titan. It's amazing.
Is that the new Captain America Titan?
That's Captain America Titan. Yeah. So that's another weird thing going on with the supers is, like, supers aren't just mash button usability. You're now basically in an empowered mode, and you have different attacks that are either combo based or, holding this down a certain way does the attack this way. Like, as a Sentinel Titan, I can either charge into things and slam into them with my shield, or I can hit things with the edge of my shield like a melee attack, or I can throw my shield, or I can sacrifice like the ability to melee with it and put down an old school bubble. So whatever the current situation warrants, like, I can do a bunch of different things with that shield. Everybody has like a much shorter cooldown class ability, and I feel like Hunters got shortchanged here because Titans, theirs is they can flip.
Yeah,
they can like
got shortchanged.
They can dodge, and like they can do some stuff while dodging. But yeah, no, they got screwed on this. Titans put up a wall.
Wait, what is they get to dodge as what is the thing?
Okay, so there's like a
class ability.
Yeah, everybody got an additional class ability. So if you hold down circle on the PS4, you do your class ability. So Warlocks drop basically like this puddle on the ground, and if your team stands in the puddle, they get a buff. And what kind of buff is variable. Titans put down a shield, like literally a shield. It's a giant shield wall. And there's two versions. There's like a full wall that'll block all damage coming in. And then there's like a half wall that you can duck behind. And the special thing about the half wall is anytime you duck down behind it, you reload your ammo. So that's going to be phenomenally good for burns. The Warlock puddle thing is you're basically going to drop a puddle, then put a shield in front of it, and that's how you're going to do raid encounters. I mean, just straight up, that's how people are going to do raid encounters. I mean, we used to do it with Titan bubbles, so like that's absolutely what's going to happen. I hope Hunters get some kind of group mechanic when they do their dodge, like that it increases everyone's speed or gives them a buff of some sort. But like right now, it's useful for them because they can dodge out of stuff.
It's funny because of the three of those you mentioned, the one that sounds the most interesting to me is additional mobility. Like you said, they get to dodge, and I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. How often can I do that? Is that, and like the other two don't sound as exciting to me as
oh my god.
But
the other two are really useful for group content.
Yeah, but I'd have to care about the group content first, and the game has to get over that wall for me to be into it. Whereas like just from I'm gonna play this game casually and enjoy myself, like having extra mobility sounds amazing. I mean, I get that.
The Warlock one is definitely also nice personally because the either you get a weapon damage boost, which is sort of okay, or you get a healing boost. Except in addition to like that, the healing boost also grants overshields, so it lets you live through things that a fragile Warlock otherwise can't.
Yeah. And, like, that part could be cool. But, like, you said, I leave a puddle, like, I pee on the ground and then stand in it. And, like, that doesn't sound cool. Versus I get to flip around. Like, do I get to ninja flip or do I leave a puddle on the ground? Like, one of those sounds a lot cooler than the other one.
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
that
Just
buffs
the-
your damage. Oh.
Yeah, like the one that looks cool doesn't sound cool to me because it doesn't do anything.
I mean, it moves me from one place to another very quickly.
It's just that
I
two of
guess
them,
if that's your thing.
two of them have actual physical effects, and one is a movement ability. So
You-
it feels a little weird.
Yeah,
It does feel unbalanced especially if two of them have things that actually buff an entire party and one does not. That doesn't feel good.
yeah.
Well,
Like,
because
I
what
agree with
sucks
that.
about this is it's going to be a situation where everyone wants warlocks and titans for group content. Nobody wants hunters.
Yeah, and it's.
Well,
I
if
mean,
they
it
look
sounds
at
like.
Golden Gun stays good, that's not going to be true.
I mean, it sounds like it also of the three of those. It sounds like the hunter one is also like anti-synergistic with the other two, whereas the other two synergize with each other quite nicely.
Yeah.
But just like in a vacuum, is this an ability that I want to use? Like ignoring its group content things, like is this a fun button to press? Like,
Do you remember that the baseline Warlock doesn't have a whole lot in common with how I liked to play Warlock in Destiny 1? So I kind of died a lot during the beta because I built a rather survivable Sunsinger.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly love it as a Titan because it plays into the player fantasy of the Titan, that you're like this space tank.
Yeah, like I think that makes sense. Like one of the things that I was constantly frustrated at with a Warlock is that I didn't have the mobility that I felt like I wanted.
That
Like,
said, Warlock is the only class that gets Blink.
Now,
Yeah, Void Warlock is the only class that gets Blink.
Do they make Blink not feel shitty?
I don't know. I haven't played it. Like, I only played the Fire Angel Warlock.
I mean, I'd be interested if Blink felt like Blink is cooler than flipping around if it feels good, but it felt like garbage in Destiny 1. Like it was an utterly awful ability to press.
also, I know your thoughts on the Warlock Glide, but I really like it, so I'm actually kind of glad they kept it.
Oh, good, because I like the World Club.
So the only change that I saw in movement abilities was that Titan gliding is no longer as overpowered as it once was. Like, I cannot move faster than any other class in the game now by correctly skating. They've slowed down Titan skate a bit, which is probably something that needed to happen because it was a little overpowered.
Well, that glide probably would feel better if the way it interacted felt like it made sense or was explained. Because it felt like sometimes I could go higher than my jump height and other times I couldn't, and it wasn't clear how that worked. Or like, when should I press this button? Like sometimes I press the glide button and I just fall to the ground and feel terrible. And other times like I have this graceful, amazing arc and that feels pretty good. But it's never clear to me. It was never clear to me, and I was never able to figure out how that button was supposed to work such that it felt good. As opposed to sometimes giving me additional height and length on my jumps versus
It's basically, like, I can tell you how it works. It basically decreases gravity on you. So if you press it as you're going up, you go up much farther. If you press it at the top of your jump, you just come down slowly.
Oh, yeah, that was never very clear to me. So basically, you just always wanted to tap the button twice really fast.
Double tap the button to go really high, yes.
Oh.
See, I always felt like the Warlock jump should work similar to the Titan jump, where, like, if I hit...
They are basically opposites of each other.
I mean, they're opposites of each other, but, like, as a Titan, if I hit the button, if I hit it as I'm ascending vertically, I boost vertically as well. If I hit it as I'm dropping down, I boost horizontally. So, like, I can shift which type of motion I want to make on the fly. And
I mean,
Warlock is always just like, I want to jump high or I want to float slowly over something.
Warlock Glide being described as it reduces the effect of gravity on you makes that ability make sense to me. But it always sounded like a jetpack, but didn't behave like a jetpack. But I might end up playing Hunter anyway. Since I think I can hit people with a staff.
Yeah, they're Blade Dancer with a...
Pole Dancer is kind of fun. I mean,
They don't.
it really
Clash is
is.
not called Pole Dancer, but everybody's definitely calling it that.
Maybe
It
I'll do
has-
Hunter.
It has basically like fighting game combos.
Weird. They decided the Blade Dancing Super was rather not interactive. Made it more complicated and gave you a staff.
Okay, interesting.
Well, I mean, like you can now do a bunch of different attacks instead of just I'm going to leap
Instead of just-
forward and prey can't interact with the target.
Yes.
I wish I could. Is it possible to try out Blink in the beta?
I do not know, but I will try to find out for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure the other class that you can be as a warlock is Void. So basically,
the new Sun class, which is not quite Sunsinger anymore. You have a flaming sword and you shoot sword arcs at people with your super. It's kind of amazing, but I miss grenade spam.
Like I feel like Warlock was the wrong class for me in the original.
This is probably true.
Like I feel like you definitely should have been a hunter.
I just didn't like Golden Gun or whatever. I thought that was a dumb super, and so I didn't.
You probably should have stuck with Hunter until Blade Dancer.
Yeah.
So the big thing about the supers now is they've changed them so that none of them are a one and done attack. They all kind of work.
Sure about that?
I don't know.
I think the Voidwalker one is still a one and done attack.
I think you can change it to where it works like that, but I think by default you can do different things with it. I don't know. Like, I mean, I didn't play Voidwalker.
So more like when you could be Palpatine, less just throwing one big attack.
Right. So
I'm sad that subclass is not included in the demo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of been verified that it is the other subclass, and for Titans, like, we keep Sunbreaker.
I mean, the Lightning guy felt way better than anything else I'd played in that game. Being a Lightning guy was awesome.
Well, the new abilities except for the Void Bow guy, Lightning and Hammer Bros both were, you have a timer bar, and doing attacks depletes that timer bar, or just doing nothing depletes that timer bar. So you can do a bunch of stuff while your super's active. And now they added the ability to basically like pick a bunch of different attacks that you can do based on how you actually attack. So they added some of the like utility that is in the sword weapons to the supers, to where like there's multiple sword attacks. Like you can use the sword to absorb incoming weapon fire, or you can, do like a big super charged up attack, or you can do light melee attacks with it. So they kind of did the same kind of thing with the supers this time, to where there's like more utility in them. I mean, of note, like, it's available for anyone to download right now on the PlayStation Store. Whether or not you've ever owned, Xbox One as well, I think. Whether or not you've ever owned Destiny, you can download it and play with it.
Even if you haven't pre-ordered?
Yeah, no, it's open to anyone right now. It is literally an open beta.
Oh, on PS4?
Yeah, you just go download it and play.
Maybe I'll give it a go. I wasn't going to, but...
I mean, I can't stress, there's really not a lot to do right now.
There's not a lot of content.
I'm kind of okay with that. Like, I've been waffling about whether or not to download the beta, because I pretty much, unless something really stupid happens, I'm going to buy this game and I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
And in that sort of case, like, I don't want to be beta testing. I don't care about their bugs. I just want to make sure they're fixed before I have to play it when it comes out. And I just, I don't want to get bored of it before the game launches.
You would miss awesome tidbits like, that wizard came from the moon!
So the cool thing is like, basically what they've given us to do is exactly what they showed off at E3. Like, it's the mission that they showed in its entirety at E3. You just get to play through it.
How did you get in on the beta?
You literally go to the PlayStation Store, find Destiny 2 beta, and download it.
Okay.
If you were on the Destiny 2 page, you can just scroll down. I think the beta is there.
Weirdly enough, like, I expected this to be like on the front page, but it's not.
It's not there. No.
Because I think that being able to see what they do as far as storytelling and see if the things that I didn't like the feel of in the original have changed might really sell me or not on it.
Like, what you can play as are the Arcstrider replacement hunter, the Golden Gun hunter, I think.
Yeah, but you can only use the modified version of the Golden Gun super.
Yeah, so like that's the only frustrating thing, is like you're kind of locked. They've only partially unlocked your character, but someone figured out how you're going to unlock abilities. Basically going out and doing stuff in the world, like events, reward a shard that you can then use to unlock stuff. There's just no way to get those shards in the beta. But anyway, it's worth playing around with. I mean, I enjoyed myself. I've popped in multiple times. I'm not sure what I think about the changes to the PvP. Mostly they dropped the match size from 6v6 to 4v4, and they've got smaller maps, so like it's much more frenetic than it used to be. But I mean, in truth, I really only play Crucible during Iron Banner time, and if there's loot on the line, I can put up with it.
Sounds like a ringing endorsement.
Anyway, another thing that's happened this week is the start of a new Diablo 3 season. So Season 11 is happening, and everyone is playing Necros. Because why not Necros?
Everybody is playing Necros. Like, I absolutely hope that Blizzard releases a statement or an infographic or something about this season, because I have yet to see more than one person who was not playing a Necro.
Yeah, we were running around silly. Thursday night when it opened as a party of 4 Necros, and it was great. So many undead on screen at once.
So many corpses exploding.
So is Necro pretty fun?
Yes. Yes, it is very fun.
It has meat fireworks. What's not to love about
fun in D2?
What's not to love about meat fireworks? No, like it feels really good. Like it feels. I was never a big fan of the Necro in D2, and this version feels really good to me. Like it feels, I don't know, more responsive than the D2 Necro did. And we have bone spikes for days.
Yeah, the thing that makes me sad about the Necromancer is it make the Witch Doctor obsolete as the class that has a lot of fun playing with pets, because I have so many skeletons.
Man, I kind of feel like
Necro's emphasis is temporary pets, though, isn't it?
It has some temporary pets, but it also has persistent pets.
How are you not the bad guy playing a Necromancer in Diablo?
Who knows or cares?
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, you're a priest of Rathma, like whatever priests of Rathma are.
In the grand scheme of things, you aren't actually all that bad.
I mean, you're ripping the bones out of demons and using those to kill more demons. It's not that bad.
Man, it's no worse than the Warlock in World of Warcraft.
No, it's like, honestly probably a lot better than that.
I mean, because honestly, like the way they talk about the dead, like in the cutscenes and such, kind of reminds me of the way that the Red Guard revere the dead. Except for instead of, not ever touching them, I'm bending them to my service. So my skeleton buddies can help me. And my amazing bone golem.
Whirlwind of bone.
That was the funniest thing. Is like every time we encountered a boss, we all tended to get the same abilities at the same time. So we'd run in and like you'd see 4 bone golems. Ability. Yep, you'd see 4 bone golems go off, and the boss just melt.
Yep, or like Army of the Dead, which is also, I guess it's in the same branch of the skills as the golem, but that is also a super fun button to push. Raise a massive skeletal army to pummel the targeted location, dealing 12,000% weapon damage in a 15-yard radius.
I feel like the moment at which D3 clicked with me was when I realized I don't have to choose from these abilities. I can have multiple in the same path.
Yeah, changing that setting is definitely a revelation. I do love that, like, almost every site that I go to that, has builds and things for Diablo 3, like, somewhere right after they have, like, this is what the build is. There's always, like, wait, I can't use these abilities. They're in the same tree. Like, here's how you fix that. Because, yeah, it is a revelation when you realize you can do that. Old hat now, but
I understand why that wasn't the default.
Because it's slightly
confusing. Should have been the default.
Because they wanted to group things by some sort of theme. I don't know. I'm just glad that they didn't force it.
There's going to be bad decisions made when this game released.
I mean, I've literally never encountered an in-game build that didn't break that, like to where you have multiple of the same ability and the same classification.
There used to be a
sure
bunch of
there's
lizard
probably
builds that used basically all of the damage buffs,
Yeah.
and then like one skill. This looks more like a D2 build than a D3 build.
Well, there's a bunch of Crusader builds that like don't use a spender at all, like like a resource spender. It's just all, resource gaining abilities because you're given some crazy ass buff for having 100% resource.
Pretty sure they're
The other awesome thing about playing the Necromancer in this season is that the set that you get is the Rathma set, and it looks amazing. Like, I don't even care. It's not quite the best set for the Necromancer right now, but it looks freaking awesome, and it is made entirely out of bones.
And I guess like there is some argument about whether or not it is a really amazing set, because like I was watching a video from Riker, and apparently like that's the set that he's pushed the furthest into greater rifts on of any of the other builds that he's tried. So I mean, apparently like it really is a good set. It's just not a commonly good set.
I mean, I got fairly lucky with drops this season and got pretty much all of the required pieces for my build really early, and like pretty much went from 4-piece bonus to Torment 10 and could probably push it further. Didn't really have any problems with D10, so that felt good.
Well, I mean, like, even tonight, I've picked up an Ancient Dainties binding.
Oh,
So,
nice.
like, it seems like I'm starting to accumulate the things I need.
An ancient dainty binding?
Yeah.
Dainties by
It sounds like nonsense, I'm sure.
I'm just imagining like a lovely bracelet.
It's a belt.
probably a belt, yeah.
Okay.
I realize that doesn't help with mental image a whole lot.
No, like
You gain an additional 50% damage reduction when there is an enemy afflicted by your Decrepify, which is one of the curses you can throw up.
Please do not throw up curses. That sounds gross.
Is it easier to maintain curses than it was in D2? You
I
still had
mean-
to cast them on basically every enemy.
This one is a pretty big AoE,
That helps.
and there's definitely a passive. I think it's a passive that lets you spread them. Let's see.
a Google image search for dainty goth belt is about where my mental picture for what Belle is describing went to. Also, FYI, a Google image search for dainty goth belt is way more tasteful than I would have expected.
But all in all, it's been fun season so far, and it's been a blast playing the Necro. I am glad we ran them up to 70 before starting the season.
Yes, but I'm also glad that we pretty much stopped after we got to 70 because I wasn't burned out on it. I hadn't been farming on it for 2 weeks or whatever before the season started, so I can actually enjoy it right now. And I haven't really messed with most of the sets, so I'm slowly accumulating bits and pieces of the other sets as I'm gearing up. And at some point, I'm sure that I will try them all out. And I mean, I have to do at least one set dungeon if I want to continue in the season journey thing. So that is the only thing that is holding me back from finishing the Slayer chapter. So I'll probably do that.
Once you stop dragging me around.
Hey, one of the great things about Diablo 3 is it's even more profitable when you drag your friends around than when you don't. Everybody wins. And that's the other really great thing about the season. Everyone is a necromancer, and that means when you get a piece of loot, you can just pass it along to whoever needs it. I got really lucky earlier and got like a duplicate of a set weapon, and it wasn't as good as what I had, and I passed it along to a friend who I was playing with at the time. I suspect there's going to be an awful lot of that going on this season.
I'm okay with this.
Yep.
I mean, to be fair, like, we've done this before, like, with our Demon Hunters, and it was amazing. Like, gearing out in those seasons seemed to go faster than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a bonus when you when you're in a party of 4 people all playing the same class and you can just shuffle gear around. That's pretty nice.
Well, I don't have a whole lot more to say about the season. It's still fairly fresh.
Yep, it just started a few days ago. It's super fun, and everyone should have more bone spikes.
So, Tam, Kodra, Ash, guys totally participated in something interesting today.
Something I'm super jealous of.
I am so jealous.
So yeah, I think we saw this. I think you may have linked this to me, Belle, on the FF14 like launcher. They mentioned that they were doing an escape room.
Yeah,
and that it was showing up in Seattle, and so we all went. And it was super fun. Like, we didn't really know what to expect, and they set up this whole big space with a bunch of like puzzle stations, I guess is the best term for it. And then you and your team had like a ever-growing number of clue pieces and props and so on that you were using to try to figure out how to solve various puzzles.
Everyone was a different class from the game, which meant they had different powers. And some of the powers helped you solve puzzles, and some of the powers you had to use to you had to figure out you needed to use these powers to defeat monsters in a certain way.
Or not monsters.
Yeah.
Paladin had an intimidating gaze, which you could use on the wizard near the binding coil to intimidate them into showing you what their favorite spell was, which you needed to use to solve a different puzzle.
Oh, is that what that... I was wondering how you got that.
By the way, spoilers for anybody who might do it.
Sorry. That one's pretty self-explanatory, though.
Yeah. But it was neat. Like, every ability has, like, this is what this ability does. And you sort of think, like, how do we use these abilities to accomplish various things in creative ways? And, like, some of them really were creative. It was very Final Fantasy themed. It's, like, kind of hard to go into without, like, explaining the puzzles, but it was this really neat thing where like everybody got a set of class specific things, and those things to like in aggregate let you get all of the pieces to solve the puzzles, and like but you still had to come up with creative uses for them. So you'd go to each like dungeon or whatever, and it would be like, how are you going to approach this dungeon? We'd tell them, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that'll work. And then you go through, and you'll see like you'd go through, and whatever the station has for you, you have an hour to solve it. We cut it pretty close. Like we were victorious, but we cut it. We were within what, like 5 minutes?
Five minutes. Yeah. They also introduced and ended the show with a bunch of supercut videos of cutscenes from Final Fantasy XIV, and I think the actual voice actors for Raoban, Kanisena, and Merriwood.
Yeah, doing like custom VO for the puzzle game, which was cool.
So did it roughly follow the storyline of Binding Coil?
No.
Not at all.
In this, Bahamut is about to resurrect again, and you have to defeat him before he resurrects and destroys the world. And you are being assisted by a tiny little Moogle named Mog.
Yeah, I mean it was a cute like kind of nod aside, but like it wasn't like the story, but it was a cute like mini story. I had a lot of fun with it.
I did too.
It was a neat thing. I would totally do these again.
So the thing with this is like it was a big convention hall. There was like 30 teams there, so it was kind of a madhouse. I think I want to do like a actual escape room where it's just you and your friends trying to puzzle your way out of a room.
Yeah, I think that would be neat.
This was a lot of people.
It was a lot of people.
And there was a lot of waiting in line to get your solution done. But there were a lot of clever, fun solutions. A lot of callbacks.
Some of it was absolutely fan service for the fans.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we did survive. We managed to cast our limit break. But
that's pretty great.
It's really cool.
The photo you posted earlier was just awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. We had
It seemed like they were missing some stuff at least in the first puzzle.
no, we just we just shortcut that puzzle really hard.
But I didn't see any way. Like I even looked. I never found the key to solve those other two puzzles.
Oh, I did.
You did?
Yeah. We just
Okay.
we just weren't really looking for it.
So the other comment I would make then is that not all of the characters had puzzles that they used their class abilities to solve, and that was kind of disappointing. Like not everyone had a card at the beginning that they had unique insight to solve.
Yeah, like everybody needed their abilities, and like every ability was used, but not evenly.
Yeah, I had a blast.
But yeah, it was super fun. The kind of like MC for the whole thing was really good too. He had a sense of humor about the whole thing.
Definitely seemed awesome, and I'm super jealous that y'all got to do it, especially as a team.
It was cool. The warning I would have for anybody who might want to do this: show up early.
Mm-hmm.
Teams are 6 people, and if there isn't a full table available when you show up, your party will get split up because they want to fill all the tables, and like not everybody comes with a group of 6 people.
Oh.
And so when I got there were 3 out of 30. There were only 3 full tables left, and I got there about half an hour early. So I did manage to reserve a whole table for all of us, but it was a near thing.
Yeah, that would have been significantly less fun if you guys ended up getting split into 2 different teams.
Yeah.
Well, do we have anything else that we want to discuss tonight?
Don't think so.
Cool. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show and enjoyed Anime Roundup, because that was a long time coming. And we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
See you.
Night.
All right. I'm heading off.